So in this video, I'm going to be giving my review of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I saw the movie in theaters in Dolby this past Saturday, and now I'm going to be giving my review of it, spoiler free. Now there's nothing more iconic in movies these days than Tom Cruise running. The man has been running his ass off movie after movie for years, and the Mission Impossible films are where you can definitely see the most of Tom Cruise running.
Open the door when I tell you!
Even Top Gun Maverick, a movie where he spent 80% of the film in the air, he still found time to do his iconic running. Mission Impossible is a franchise that, for me, started off kind of mediocre, but as the years go on, it's gotten better and better. I don't think the first two installments are very good. They're kind of boring and don't really do much for me. But Part 3 was a real turning point in terms of quality, to where I was like, whoa, that was actually a pretty fun movie. And then with the exception of number 5, Rogue Nation, from Ghost Protocol onwards, which was the number 4 installment, I think the series has gotten better and better. For COVID reasons, there was a bit of a delay between 2018's Mission Impossible Fallout and this new installment. But Tom Cruise is never one to leave the audiences waiting for too long, which brings us to 2023's Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. In this installment, Ethan Hunt and friends are searching for components/parts of a key that, when completed, could unleash true devastation upon the world. If that plot concept sounds silly, that's because, well, it kind of is. You know, there's just so much dialogue in this film about the components to this key, where the key is located, what it could unleash. If I wanted to hear this kind of dialogue about keys and destruction, I could gladly play a Kingdom Hearts game for this kind of stuff. It's also very kind of vague as to what exactly this key will do or unleash when completed. It's something related to some extreme form of AI, Terminator style, the hacking of government satellites, and even predicting the future. You know, this summer we saw Transformers Rise of the Beasts, which had a similar key searching type plot in terms of searching for parts of a key, and the whole form of extreme AI hacking power and all that kind of stuff. Well, we saw that kind of thing in Furious 7. I just wish we could have gotten a smarter sort of overall plot or end goal here, but oh well, it is what it is. Now, even with this complaint, everyone knows that these Mission Impossible movies aren't known for the kind of mind-blowing plot they can give at you. It's about the mind-blowing stunts and action sequences that these films can deliver. True to form, this franchise has taken a lot of inspiration from James Bond in terms of the infiltration type sequences and whatnot. And this film does have its share of those, like the whole airport sequence here, which has its own sort of Mission Impossible flair that it has for it in terms of different sort of stuff going on. But it also has some great action and stunts that go with it. You know, Ethan Hunt is definitely one of the most fun characters in film to watch over the past decade or so. And that's because Tom Cruise is so passionate for his craft, and it showcases itself in every scene. You know, it's been well documented his love for doing his own crazy ass stunts. And well, as with the last few installments, he finds a way to top himself. The dude is just flat out crazy, but God bless him for it, because he's a lot of fun to watch in action. As mentioned, he also loves to run. In each film, despite the older that he gets film by film, he runs more and more and more. During this film, there's a foot chase towards the middle of the film, and there's what is, like, no lie, just an uncut 30-second shot of him running in the iconic Tom Cruise fashion, where he's like karate chopping air while going.
Open the door when I tell you!
To the man's credit, he's got excellent form. As expected, Cruise brings his A game to the franchise once again in his various roles, whether it's acting, performing his own stunts, and lest we not forget, he's also a producer, as he's the one in charge of putting all these crazy shenanigans together on the big screen. The rest of the cast is also very good here as well. The series has kind of taken a Fast and Furious approach when it comes to the characters, till we get more and more characters added to the team as we go along with each installment. The last film, Mission Impossible Fallout, saw him team up and take on Superman with a mustache. In this film, the new major newcomer is Peggy Carter, playing Grace, who is after the key as well for her own intentions and whatnot. Now, from the trailers, I was initially worried that this character would be a little too similar to Ilsa Faust, who's been a character reappearing in the last few installments. But Grace does have her noticeable differences in her personality and goal, and she does play off Hunt well and definitely earns her place by the end of the film. And you can't just help but love seeing Haley Atwell in this. She's just really just lovely in anything. There is, however, a moment or a few moments where she leaves Cruise's character, Ethan Hunt, in a few unfortunate positions, including one to where it's all like, holy shit. If he didn't get out of that, I don't know how you would definitely feel about this Grace character a lot differently. It's funny because based on the look of Grace, Ilsa Faust, and then his ex-wife Julia from the previous films, Hunt, or rather Tom Cruise, definitely has a type that he's into. There's another Marvel actress that also joins the fold here, and that's Pom Clement Mantis from Guardians. She plays a crazed assassin working for the main opposition to Hunt. It's definitely fun to see her in a role outside of Guardians, and in this kind of role in particular. Despite the antagonistic type role that the character is in, the character is meant to be fun, and she definitely is because of all the crazy stuff you see her doing. Pom really doesn't have a whole lot of lines of real dialogue in this, but it's still really effective here because of the expression in her eyes and just facial expressions in general. There's just a crazed look of insanity here. It's a lot of fun to see. I only wish we could have seen more of that character, but she definitely fulfilled the role that the story required for her. She was honestly much more interesting than the actual main antagonistic here, who's sort of the equal to Hunt, who I guess is from the first Mission Impossible. I don't really remember that film all too well, but as an antagonist, he was just okay, fulfilled his role, but I didn't really get too much from him in terms of sort of real impact. Now, despite the movie's lengthy runtime, and it is 2 hours and 43 minutes, that's including credits, the movie has great energy, great pacing. The only time I honestly got a little bored was sort of a heavy dialogue scene early on about the nature of this key, but after that, there was a whole lot of great stuff to enjoy here. Probably the most fun scene is the car chase. It's a little similar in nature to what we saw from Fast X a little earlier this year, but it's still great. It's a lot of great stuff to it, a lot of fun dynamics. It's very funny, a lot of great humor to it also. It's a very well done sequence overall. Obviously, in terms of your set pieces, Tom Cruise motorcycling off a cliff is very impressive, but in terms of pure scale, the most impressive set piece, as shown in the trailers, is definitely the train sequence. Spider-Man 2 definitely set the bar as far as train action sequences, but this one is really good too, including the ending portion of it. It's great. There's a final obstacle in this train that Hunt and the ones working with him must overcome, and the way this set piece plays out, it's so fantastic in terms of the way it's shot and all the different stuff that's happening at the same time. I really enjoyed this final sequence. The movie is overall definitely a really enjoyable, crowd-pleasing time that despite some plot shortcomings, it was able to be overcome by great blockbuster-type filmmaking and, of course, total commitment from its star. So I would give Dead Reckoning Part 1 an 8 out of 10.
I don't accept that.
Alright, fine. 9 out of 10. As is the case with some of the other films this summer, like Fast X and Across the Spider-Verse, this film is part 1 of a 2-part story. But to the film's credit, it doesn't end as in cliffhanger-ish fashion as the other 2 films I mentioned did. There is somewhat of a resolution to what's going on, but obviously this is gonna lead into Dead Reckoning Part 2 coming out next summer. It is kind of hard to imagine where this Mission Impossible story will go after Part 2 is complete, but we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get there. Now, as has been the case with some of these reviews I've been putting out lately, at the time I'm recording this, I'm able to comment on the film's opening weekend box office. And the film, for the official opening weekend from Friday to Sunday, did $54 million in terms of domestic gross. Now, in fairness, the film did open a few days before, so with the whole Wednesday, Tuesday total added in, which it probably should, it's about $78 million, which is definitely better. But in all honesty, I thought box office wise, this movie would open up a bit bigger. I think expectations should have been at like 90 million. And that's probably for even just the regular 3-day weekend, Friday through Sunday. It's really surprising. I thought this movie would be a lot bigger just because it's had great word of mouth, in terms of reviews and whatnot. The marketing promotion was definitely on point. They made sure to show you that, hey, we got Tom Cruise motorcycling off a mountain. And it's coming off of Top Gun Maverick, which was just such a huge financial juggernaut last summer, a movie that everyone loved, and everyone appears to be loving this film. As mentioned, I saw the film in Dolby this past Saturday, and my auditorium was packed. But I think that's actually a bad barometer to judge films on when you go to see it, think like, oh, it's packed, it's having a huge opening weekend. Well, I think these days people either go big or don't go at all when they go to the movies for these huge blockbusters in terms of Dolby and IMAX. So stuff like Mission Impossible, Transformers, or Fast X, whatever you want to mention. If audiences or most people, if they can't see it on big screens like this, like that, then they just decide, well, might as well just wait because it's not worth it to see in a non sort of premium screen type format. So that might have been the case with Mission Impossible also. Just goes to show it's just been a rough summer this year. You know, I came out with a video few weeks ago talking about the whole summer box office, how it's been flopping. This is a movie that I felt like would be sort of a guarantee in terms of, you know, movies that have been either flopping or been disappointments. This would have been a guaranteed hit because of all the factors I mentioned before. But it goes to show that it's just kind of a crowded summer, and people's sort of viewing habits have changed to where a lot of things is just like, you know what, maybe I'll go and watch this a little later. Now, I do think that this movie will have pretty good legs just because it did have, in terms of its box office run, just because, as I mentioned, those things in terms of its reviews, the word of mouth, promotion, and Mission Impossible is geared to an older audience that isn't going to sort of rush out on opening weekend. Problem with that is that this week is a huge competition with talking about Oppenheimer opening and Barbie, two movies that have been anticipated by audiences for a very long time now. So we'll just have to see how Mission Impossible holds up. So that'll do it for this review of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching.